morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the CEO Story. Let's take a quick second to thank our sponsors, Together CFO. If you or anyone you know are overpaying on taxes, definitely feel free to reach out to them and they will help take care of that situation for you. Today we have Bryan Clayton, who is the CEO of Green Pal. Green Pal is one of the best apps out there for lawn care. It's kind of the Uber of lawn care. Bryan's got an extensive experience helping multiple companies grow past 8 figures. That's right, 8 figures, not the usual 7, but this is a big boy right here. So Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How are you doing?
AC, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, we're really excited to learn more from you and kind of dig into the lawn care world, because who would have thought that there's many 8-figure businesses in lawn care, and you're here and you're crushing it. So can you just start by sharing a little bit more about Green Pal and what you guys do right now, and then we'll circle back around into your previous history.
Yeah, so Green Pal has been called the Uber for lawn mowing. So if you're a homeowner and you need to get your grass cut, rather than calling around on Craigslist or Facebook or Yelp, you can just jump on our website or our app and get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in less than a minute. If they come out and do a good job for you, you book them for the rest of the lawn mowing season, and it just happens right in the background like magic. On the flip side of that transaction, we're an entire platform that lawn care services plug into to operate their business. So the reason why we really exist is to enable people who just want to work hard in the lawn mowing industry just to plug into our technology and just double their business in the first few months of using Green Pal. And so that's really why we do what we do. We've been at this 8 years. We're 8-year overnight success. Several 100,000 people use the app on a weekly basis to get their grass cut. We're doing $20 million a year in revenue right now, and we've been doubling year over year for the last 5 years.
Wow, some great, amazing numbers in an industry that people wouldn't necessarily associate huge amounts of efficiency and value add, but it goes to show you that there's always an area to help people, and the more people you help, the more value you bring, the more you can eventually get paid out. But it wasn't always like that, right, Bryan? And let's kind of dig into some of your past and your history and how you ended up getting into the lawn care industry.
Yeah, I've actually been in this business in one way or another my entire life. I was actually forced into entrepreneurship by my father on a hot summer day. He said, "Get off your ass. You've got a job to do. You're going to go mow the neighbor's lawn." And I didn't really want to stop playing Super Mario World, but he made me, and he made me go cut the neighbor's grass. And luckily he did, because I was just hooked on entrepreneurship after that. I remember I got done and I got paid like $20. And the first thing I did was I went to my old school desktop computer and made up flyers off of Microsoft Word, and just passed out door hangers all over, flyers all over my neighborhood. And by the end of that first summer, I had like 15 customers. And I stuck with that lawn mowing business all through high school, all through college, paid my way through college mowing yards. And when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Was I going to take a pay cut, go into the job market, or just stick with this grass cutting business? I didn't really want to be a lawn mowing guy my whole life. I went to business school, and I didn't do that to learn how to run a lawn mowing business, but I just stuck with it. Made a little business plan, and over a 15-year period of time, built that business to over 150 employees, got it over $10 million in revenue, and long story short, got it acquired in 2013. It was acquired by one of the largest landscaping companies in the United States. And so growing that business, just me and a push mower, to me and like 100, 150 employees, 70, 80 trucks going out every day, I learned a lot about how to build a business from scratch.
So let's kind of dive into that as the first step, because you've built multiple 8-figure businesses, which not many people can say that. So there's definitely a great level of success there. So when you were scaling the company and you realized that, hey, I've left school now, this is where I'm going to focus, how did you go about kind of getting the next client? And then once you got those clients, let's talk about how you're then filling that, because you can't possibly go mow all these lawns yourself. So you have to then build a team out. So for the entrepreneurs that are listening that are stuck at, hey, how do I get my next client? What are some of the advice that you could share on that?
Especially in those early days, I think when you're getting past your first 100K in revenue, 250K in revenue, you've got $1 million in revenue, you're trying to get to 3 to 5 to 10. Like it's like as the entrepreneur, as the business owner, you're throwing your entire life's force into the business. You're doing everything you can in terms of wearing multiple hats. For me, like like looking at the last 20 years of business, I can almost look at it like a video game, and like looking at it like level by level by level, and just trying to get through that level to get to the next level. And I think what hangs a lot of guys up, or a lot of business owners up, is that they worry about like Bowser related problems on like level 1 or 2. And so for me, like getting through those first like 5 levels was just figuring out by any means necessary, how do I level up. And so for me, I was running a lawn mowing business. It was just me and like a helper, and then I got like another helper, and I had 2 crews, and then 3 crews. I was still running one of the crews, but I was still doing cold call sales like while like in the truck. And like I would have like a crew mowing yards, and like I would still like cold call every restaurant, bank, shopping center in town, trying to pitch them on letting me bid on their landscape maintenance contract. And so that's like how I got to level 2 and 3. And then I realized, wow, okay, I need to divide up half my time between sales manager and operations manager. And then I was able to kind of figure out, okay, to really grow this business, I got to like have a sales engine at its core. I got to
Right,
figure out a way.
let me pause you there, Bryan, because you said so many good things. Let's break that down. So you started initially by mowing residential lawns, right? And then once that was kind of running and you were still part of the team at this point, you upgraded to bigger contracts. So now you're pitching on more, let's call it commercial contracts rather
That's
than
right.
residential. So the incremental steps were, hey, I can do this. We've got a team. Now let's try and get bigger projects for the team and we can grow the team out. And then after that was then achieved, you then realized that, hey, you can't work on the actual site, run the team, do the cold calling, and close the sales all at the same time. So you need to then build out multiple, let's call them divisions of your business. So this is turning it from you doing pretty much 3 or 4 different hats at once to
Right.
then there's enough momentum here to hire that salesperson or that closer or that next person along that's going to bring in the next amount of business.
Exactly. And also like willing to work in the business and on the business at the same time. So it's like you're executing these tasks on a daily basis, whether it be ops or sales or just everything that has to happen. But then also like trying to carve out time. For me, it was the weekends. It was like Sundays. I would just come into the office when everything was dead, and just figure out ways to work on the business. And one of the big leaps of faith growing that business, like I think I was doing a little over $1 million of revenue, but I knew I had to like create a sales engine at the core of the business. And I was hiring my first salesperson, and for 2 years this my first salesperson made more money than I did as the business owner. But I was willing to do that because I knew if I could just figure out a way to bring on salespeople and train them in a system and incentivize them, and if I could duplicate that across 5, 6, or 7 salespeople, then I could build a real business and get it over 10 figures or
No,
8 figures.
that's a really, really good point again. And I think, especially when we started together CFO back in the days, we were dealing more with startups and people that were scaling very quickly. So it was a lot of chaos, for want of a better word, all happening at the same time. And you just got to get stuck in and get through tasks. One of the key things that we try and help educate the entrepreneur in is getting a task done even to 70, 80% of what you're capable of is okay, rather than leaving it on your to-do list and never actually getting around to it. So it's like being able to delegate and push things off. And okay, it might not be done up to the way you would do it, but there's not 10 of you to go around get all these tasks done, right?
Absolutely. And looking back, a lot of the story that I'm telling you right now takes place in like '05, '06, '07. And we didn't have these online platforms in which to hire specialized skill sets fractionally. And so nowadays there's an opportunity. Let's say you need like a rock star CFO, or you need a rock star sales lead, or you need a rock star digital marketer or something like that. Normally like one of these people would cost you 6 figures plus. And you can't, your business is doing 750K. You can't afford to like bring them on. But what you can do is you can jump on a platform like Upwork and hire one of these people for maybe an hour a week, 5 hours a month, 2 hours a week, whatever. Yeah, sure, you might pay them 100 or 200 or $300 an hour, but in my experience, it's better to hire like top notch the best and for a couple of hours than try to hire somebody who's like fresh out of college for 40 hours.
Yeah, and that's exactly one of the ways we grew our business with the fractional CFO service, is that that problem was exactly what we were solving, where the entrepreneurs, one, didn't really need a full-time CFO, and two, couldn't afford a full-time CFO. So it's like, let's just get in there, we'll do a monthly review, we'll show them what the numbers are doing, and that they can make better decisions based on real numbers rather than having to guess. So it's like one less thing for the entrepreneur to worry about. And like you said, the next vertical would be sales, the next one would be marketing, and build that out on a fractional basis is
Yep.
much more efficient than trying to double down and get the best A-team player. Because if you're starting out, it's a lot of risk that you're taking at that point. And I always try and take asymmetric risk and then grow gradually that way. So that's,
I agree. And then you kind of know what you're looking for. You know, you kind of have a little bit of momentum on, what that full-time HR person is going to look like and what the kind of person you want when you get ready to hire a full-time HR person, a full-time CFO, a full-time like ops manager, a full-time marketer, of SEMO. And so, yeah, this idea of like hiring fractional people like who are really good and you can't afford them full-time, but you can afford them 5 hours a week, can really help level up your business and get you over the million, 3, 5, $10 million in revenue.
And that's exactly what it does. It helps a business, let's just say a semi-established business that's doing 7 figures. So it'll help you go from 1 million to 5 million, or 5 million to 10 million a lot quicker than the long way around, right? Just
That's
by
right.
having that experience. So let's talk about that transition within Peachtree, where you took it from 1 million now and you're mowing some lawns and you're getting some bigger contracts. How were you then able to scale up to 8 figures?
Yeah, it was a lot of just grit, hustle, just doing a lot of things wrong and learning from doing them wrong. You know, back like I was telling you back then, we didn't have the ability. You had to like really just like take the leap of faith when you were hiring one of these types of roles. And so like I was telling you, like my first salesperson made more money take home than I did, and worked half the hours, quite frankly, for 2 years. But I was willing to do that because I knew if I could just like get them to stand on their own and figure out a system for them to be able to like prospect contracts, price out work, pitch and close, and then keep the business. I knew if I could just like figure that out, then I could replicate it and create a system by which I would have 3 or 4 or 5 salespeople. And over about a 10-year period of time, I was able to get from like just me cold calling to like a robust sales team of 5 or 6 salespeople who are really the engine of delivering 6-figure contracts on a regular basis to get that business over 10 million in revenue. So that took a very long time of just trial and error. We didn't have a lot of the things that we have today. There was no YouTube to learn how to do this stuff. There was no podcast to learn how to do this stuff. There was no way to hire these people fractionally. So it was just a lot of just like taking the long view and just trying to figure it out as you go along.
So one of the things you mentioned there is the time. So that's a great point, because a lot of people would have given up long before that. 10 years to scale that through, and you'll hear overnight success banded around all over the place through many different industries. But really, all successful people have put years and years into building that and discipline every single day to get there. But one of the things that you mentioned I thought was really valuable is systems and processes. There's no way to scale past multiple 7 or 8 figures without having solid systems and processes in place. Because like you said, you can't duplicate and replicate and then scale without that foundation being set. So how many iterations did you have to go through to get that really fine-tuned and working?
Yeah, it's just like the Japanese saying kaizen, it's like always continual improvement on. And the thing is, it gets people hung up is like they want to start with the robust system and just start with that. And it doesn't start that way. It's like you getting in there and rolling up your sleeves and trying to figure it out as you go, and just going from one failure to the next without a loss of enthusiasm, and just trying to figure out what works, what doesn't, and then codify that into a routine, into like maybe a a rule of thumb, a heuristic. And then as time goes on, you get better and better and better to where you get it into your own system. And that goes for everything from like from how you prospect to how you pitch to what your value proposition is to how you close. Like it takes a long time to figure this stuff out, and it takes a long time to codify it in your repeatable system. But once you do, then you have something you can scale. So you kind of have to like nail it with hand-to-hand combat and then scale it. And yeah, you can learn from other business owners and other entrepreneurs and other coaches and other people teaching you how to do this stuff. That'll help save you time. But there really is no shortcut for you just getting in there, doing it yourself for a while, and then figuring out ways to pick up efficiencies along the way, and then figuring out ways to delegate it. And then the person you're delegating it to, like, how do you make them successful? Like, ultimately, how do you make them like make a lot of money and making it a win-win? And like that takes time. And so, yeah, there's no shortcut for this stuff. And I think what hangs up a lot of business owners is that they just want to start with the robust system day one, and it doesn't, and then they give up, and it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think you hit the nail on the head, is that you can't teach someone to do something that you're not already doing.
Right.
So you got to eat your own food first, and
Yep.
then teach other people how to do it after that.
That's exactly right. I mean, I don't know that I can point to one example in 20 years of entrepreneurship that's like I was able to delegate something that I haven't done, at least half-assed. Like I've tried to do like the 80-20 piece of it. Uh, and because if not, you don't know what you're delegating. Like you really can't hire a good CFO if you haven't done your own bookkeeping for a little while.
Oh,
You kind of have to do your own
numbers,
bookkeeping.
right? Yeah. If you don't understand
Yeah.
them, like a lot of the times we get into it with clients, it's like, oh, are you accrual bookkeeping or are you cash bookkeeping? And they don't even know the difference.
They don't know.
And it's like, this
Yeah.
is like fundamental step one. If you're a seven-figure business, there's no real reason you should be doing cash bookkeeping, right? So
That's right.
You don't know, you don't know. So you need to get educated and get up to a certain level of understanding so that you can steer the ship in the right direction. Because ultimately, once you do start building momentum, it's very easy to get off track if you don't know where you're going. So let's kind of segue into the sale, because you had a great exit of that business. Can you talk a little bit about how that came about and how that all transpired?
Yeah, I'd like to tell you that I did it the right way and that I laid out a 5-year exit plan and worked my way backwards from that, and I maxed out. Uh, but it didn't work out that way. Had I had gotten to the decision, like from a personal psychological standpoint, that I had taken the business as far as I could take it, and I had just really wanted to kind of do something else with my life. I had done it for 15 years. So I made the decision, okay, I'm going to sell this business. And from the day I made that decision to the day like I got, the wire transfer was 2 years. And that was really hard. Like that was 2 years of agony, because it's kind of like you're almost maybe like in a marriage and it's over, but you're still in the marriage. Like it's just agonizing. Like you know that this business is not going to be yours one day, but you're still doing all these things. You're working harder than you ever have. And the thing is like if I could have done it all over again, I would have read the book Built to Sell, and I just would have, like, over a 4-year period of time, done everything that book talks about. But I didn't. I made the decision, and then it like took 2 years of reverse engineering a lot of stuff that needed to be done to get the business groomed for sale. And to your point, like getting like GAAP accounting in place. We didn't have GAAP accounting, and so that was a challenging thing. And if I could have done it again, I would have done it differently. But ultimately was able to get it done, got the company groomed and ready to go. And left some money on the table with some dumb decisions. But ultimately, like, it was one of the largest acquisitions in the lawn and landscaping industry in like a decade. So it worked out, but it could have been a better outcome.
Yeah, because there's always much bigger stakes when you're selling due to the way multiples are calculated. So for every $1, depending on the multiple in your industry, you effectively gaining or losing X amount of dollars just because
Exactly.
one thing wasn't right or a clawback wasn't there, or you could have done something more efficiently. And obviously
Exactly.
hindsight is always 2020, but the achievement is that you've taken this business from zero all the way to a huge exit, and you've done that successfully over a 10 plus year period. So it took a while to do that. So you definitely bore the fruits of it at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the lessons I learned from that transaction have played into how I have set up Green Pal, my current business, and how I have approached like philosophically building it. So like all of the lessons I learned over a 15-year period of time building and selling that company have applied to how we're building Green Pal. And so, the thing is like the mistakes I made there may ultimately prove out to have paid, a much better ROI, in terms
Yeah,
of this outcome.
definitely so in the specific fintech space that you're in right now with a platform, because platforms multiples are a lot higher than
Right.
I'm assuming what the lawn mowing business was.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah. So as we kind of transition into that, that is a really, really good point. So now you've sold the business, you've cashed out, you're king of the world, right? And what do you do next? You create a platform in the industry that you already know so well, where you're solving an even bigger problem, but just for hundreds of thousands of people now. So I think that's absolute genius to use your experience and your know-how and put it to work and really add value back to the market that you know so well. So can you
Well,
talk through
it's
that a
kind of
little?
solving my own problem. Yeah. I mean, I just saw that it needed to be built. I sold that business. I retired. I didn't work for like 6 months and I got really bored.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, I need to get back in the game. I need to get back in the trenches. I need to get back into the arena. What am I going to do? And like the
Only
idea for
so
Green
much
Pal.
golf you can play, right?
Right. Yeah. There's only so many beaches you can lay on. And, you realize that what drives you is your business, and that what gives you purpose is your business. And you start to realize that that's a big piece of who you are. And you really want to just get back in there and start working on something. And I had to go through all of that kind of like learning about myself, and the idea for Green Pal was a real easy one for me because I had seen how difficult this industry had operated, and for on both sides of the transaction, and how inefficient it ran, and then I'm seeing like this other like parallel evidence for like Uber and Airbnb are doing for these real world transactions. And I thought, okay, an app needs to exist for this. Let's go to work. Let's build this thing. And so I recruited two co-founders, and so we had like the tacit industry knowledge going for us, but what we didn't have was the technological acumen. None of us knew how to code. None of us knew how to build software. So we had to like go through this like agonizing
Really?
like
See, that surprises me. I thought one of the co-founders would have been a technical coding co-founder, and another one would have been maybe an operations or a marketing or someone like that, so that you've got industry knowledge, one's got coding knowledge, and the other one's got sales and marketing knowledge.
ideally, yeah. Like, ideally you want to get what Paul Graham calls as a hacker and a hustler.
Yeah.
You want to get somebody who knows how to like execute tech and can build software, and as somebody who can just make it rain. And that's ideally what you would start at starting line with, but that's not how it started with us. I didn't really know any people that built software at all, and I mean, I just didn't. And not only that, I didn't know, but like I was like way far from even knowing anybody that built software. And I'm coming out of Nashville, Tennessee, which is not a big like tech hub, right? And so I tried to find people who knew how to like create software, but like with no success. And so what I ended up doing is I just recruited two people that I could trust and I knew would work their butts off. And also that they had a chip on their shoulder to like make something of themselves. And I knew so long as they had those qualities, then we could figure out the rest. And so we just went to work. We actually paid a dev shop to build the first version of Green Pal, like $150,000 to build it, and we launched it. Took like 9 months to build and launched it, and it was a total flop, total failure. Didn't have the features it needed. It was hard to use. It was clunky. Um, and came to the realization like, okay, if we're gonna be in the tech business, we got to learn how to build software. And so then we spent the next 2 or 3 years working on ourselves while working on building the second version. My One of my co-founders did go to a software school that was like an 8 month program, and he did learn how to build back end software on Ruby on Rails from that school. And then I learned how to build front end stuff, and my other co-founder learned how to design. And so we like spent 3 years working on ourselves while working on the second version. And it's to that point, like we now we have a team of like 30 people, but it's like we delegated too quickly, and and then we had to like master like the 80-20, like what the Pareto principle of all this stuff, and then we could delegate again.
So it's just back to what we said earlier, right? Is that you got to have some knowledge of what you want to do before
Yeah.
you can then really delegate that out. And you kind of, it came good in the end, but you definitely went the long way around.
Mm. Yeah, you said it, man. Like we've been at this 8 years. It doesn't feel like it's been that long. But the thing is, it's like you see a lot of successful tech businesses that just explode over a course of like 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And what you don't realize is that founder or that founding team is like on their second or third swing at the plate. Like they crashed and burned probably two other companies before that, or like if not that, they've been hacking on stuff their whole life. Like they built some little like tool in high school, and like what you don't realize, you're not looking at 3 years, you're looking at like 10 or 20 years, and you're just looking at like the last like tail end of that. And so for us, we had to pay our dues, we had to do that stuff.
Yeah, like it brings me back to an example of one of the fintech companies that we used to work with, a company called Savient. And the founder of this company was so, like, I was in so much awe of him because he was just a genius at what he did. And exactly what you said, he started a company back in the days. He sold it to a huge company. I think it was, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was IBM or Oracle or someone of that level. And then he started a second company, scaled it, did exactly the same thing. And then when I met him, he was on the third company, and boom, it went so quickly. We raised over 40 million seed A funding, which was the biggest in that subcategory ever. And it was
Incredible.
like, how did we do that so quickly? And I'm thinking, oh, this is the easiest fundraise ever. And it's nothing really to do with what we're doing. It's to do with the fact that this guy's been there and done it twice and exited at 8+ figures both times. And it's like, all right, there's a lot of experience that's got us here. And to
Right.
the point, once you know what you're doing, you can fast track that multiple times over and pivot slightly or vertically and keep going because you've got that experience.
Exactly. We've been at this 8 years, and I could, if I had to do it again, I could probably do it in like a year and a half or two. And it's just because now we know how to recruit the people we need to recruit. We know how to build the kind of software that we need to build. We know how to craft the kind of product we're trying to build. And so all these things you just got to learn the hard way the first time, and then you can go the second or third time a lot quicker.
So, are you looking to exit the business at some point, or what are your thoughts for the future?
It's like the Jeff Bezos quote. It's day one. It's easy to look back and say, wow, look how far we've come. We've set 8 years, several hundred thousand customers, but like for us, we have so much further to go. We want to be like in the lexicon of the English language, like the way you would like Uber to the airport, or Instacart your groceries, or DoorDash your dinner. We want to be in that kind of like just default option to get your grass cut. That is like our vision, our goal. And so we got a long way to go before we achieve that. At some point, maybe if something makes sense, maybe, but at this point we're profitable. We've got a good solid business that has just like plowed right through COVID, and actually doubled. And so it's like, maybe, but that's not really what we're focused on.
Fantastic. And when you look at other platforms to kind of benchmark against, you look at Uber, biggest taxi service in the world, doesn't own one car. You look at Airbnb, biggest hotelier in the world, does not own any physical property. So it's definitely the way, kind of at a macro level at least, the world is moving is towards a fintech platform solution. And again, the overheads are so much lower than having to have, like you had previously, a staff of 150 plus people,
Yeah.
more arms depending on you, making sure that everything's on time, and the headaches that come with running such a heavy workforce organization versus now where it's software based and it's like, okay, we need more tech and development people, but there's no one hammering phones. There's no one physically going to mow lawn. It's just connecting the dots, right?
Right. And with a fraction of the people, we're doing, order of magnitude more of grass cutting that is enabled through technology. And so to your point, like our job is, I had 150 people working for me in my former business. I had crew foremen that would run, crews of 2 or 3 guys. And nowadays, like our job is with our app is really to enable you as the homeowner to hire that crew foreman. And it's like let him be in business for himself. Don't There's no reason he should work for a company. He should just own his own lawn mowing business because he's got the skills and he only needs a couple of grand to get started. And so now with through technology, we're able to let him like get modulated essentially and accrue reliability and information about his little micro business. And so we should enable him to get hired directly and like just almost cut out the company that you need to work with.
Uh,
And so that's really kind of what our technology does.
and I love how it's gone full circle from you being the young kid mowing the lawn to now enabling multiple hundreds of thousands of people to start that same business and then scale it a hell of a lot quicker than you could back in the days, right?
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun too helping those small business owners get access to the American dream. All they need to do is plug into our platform, work their butts off, doing a good job mowing yards for their clients, and we help them with get all the business they want to get paid on time, all of the bookkeeping, all of these things we handle in the background for them to where they can just focus on one thing, doing a good job for their clients and growing their business. And we have a Facebook group that a lot of these folks are a part of, thousands of them, and they share stories like, oh, with Green Pal, I was able to triple my business and get my home out of foreclosure, or with Green Pal, I was able to buy a new truck or put my kid through school. That's a lot of fun. That lends us purpose as to why we do what we do.
It's life changing when you look at it through that lens because, after a certain point, the money doesn't really matter because it's not changing your lifestyle that much. But when you hear a story that you've helped a kid go to school or a family save the house, that really like,
That's a lot of fun.
yeah, that's fantastic. So, okay, want to be respectful of your time. So, to wrap up, I like to end with one question, and that is, if you had to apportion your success between three factors, those three factors being drive, skill, and luck, how would you split that up?
Not a whole lot of skill. Probably 10% skill, 30% luck, and the rest drive.
Awesome. That's really interesting. I like to
Not
kind of dig into
not
people's mindset on that.
not this I'm not, like I'm not the most talented individual. I barely graduated college. I barely got into college. I had like the lowest ACT score you could have to get into state school. Not the smartest dude, not the most talented. Uh, but luckily, for some reason, I just wanted to make something of myself, and business was the vehicle to do that. And so a lot of it was drive, and I've gotten tremendously lucky over the years too.
Well, the harder you work, the luckier you get. I really
Yeah, I love that quote.
so good. Okay, great. So, Bryan, if people want to reach out to you or learn more about Green Pal, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so anybody listening to this doesn't want to waste time mowing their yard, you can just download Green Pal in the App Store or Play Store, get hooked up with a great lawn mowing service in less than a minute. Anybody wants to get at me, LinkedIn's the great best way to get at me. You can just Google my name, LinkedIn, and I'll pop up and just shoot me a message on there.
Fantastic. And we'll put the links below to the Green Pal app and website and also to Bryan's LinkedIn just to make life easy for you guys. So, Bryan, thank you so much for your time. You've been an amazing guest.
Thank you, Casey. I enjoyed it.